And what I found was that if I tried to concentrate on understanding the material, I had to work a whole lot harder than if I just went through it the first time and didn't care about understanding it or not understanding it.
Welcome to the Ed O'Keefe Show. Transform your mind, accelerate your business, energize your body, and inspire the world. Now here is your host, Ed O'Keefe.
Hi everyone, this is Ed O'Keefe and welcome to the Ed O'Keefe Show. Today I have a great friend of mine, Roland Frasier. And Roland and I are going to be talking about mindset, money, relationships, the power of leverage, and whatever else we dive into. I met Roland first. We first met through Warm, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
Yeah. So with through Perry Belcher, Ryan Dice, and the mastermind. Is that with the Idea Incubator? Or is
Digital
that,
marketer. Okay,
digital marketer, and we've done some seminars together. But Roland's a really interesting guy because you never think he's as smart as he is because he doesn't talk a lot unless he's in kind of closed group format. That's why I stole him, and we're on a one-on-one. But what I'd like to do is I'm going to actually go through a little bit of your background,
okay,
and then I'll flip it to you, and then we'll just go.
Sure.
So your LinkedIn profile says you started out selling real estate when you were 18.
Yep.
And gradually moved into syndications of real estate and business investments.
Correct.
Roland held real estate, insurance, and security licenses and did leverage buyouts while you're still in college?
I did, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
After law school, you started your own practice and grew it to one of your top firms. And it sounds like your specialization was purely entrepreneurs, business owners, and
exactly,
and in the marketing and entertainment. And so that evolved into kind of direct response marketing, producing infomercials or being a part of infomercials with Simon & Schuster.
Yeah, well, what happened was in practicing law, I ended up representing a lot of people like Tony Robbins and Dennis Waitley and people that were in the direct response industry. And so Les Brown, but just a whole bunch of those people that were in that kind of space. And so through Tony, I met Guthy Renker, and we ended up doing a couple of my partners at the law firm that I had started, and I did production for 14 infomercials, I believe, with Guthy Renker and 2 with KTEL Direct. And I guess I just had an entrepreneurial crowd, and being an entrepreneur myself, I saw that there were opportunities to do things. So when we were doing those negotiations with Guthy Renker, and they said, well, we've got really 1 in 5 roughly of the infomercials we've got that we put out make it, and my partners and I said, what if we funded those and you give us the ones that you think are going to be successful, and we'll fund them and act as producer, and you guys do all the things you do, and that was really cool. And so we did quite a few of those, and then other people who came were doing direct mail and things like that.
Yeah.
And that got me into direct mail. And as a matter of fact, one of the clients that was doing property tax reassessments in California. So if your property values go down but your assessment is higher, there was a business for a while in being able to help people get their homes reassessed, and you would charge a fee for doing that. We charged like $50. And this guy came to me, and he was a smart guy, but he wasn't automated at all, and he wasn't scaled at all. And so I said, rather than paying a fee for services, why don't, there are definitely some opportunities in your business. How about if we come in and I'll tell you some things that I think you can do that'll help out, and we'll split the increase in the revenues. And I think during the first year, we ended up splitting up. We increased the business by about $1.8 million. We ended up with about a $900,000 a piece. That was kind of cool.
That's really cool. So was that awareness to actually see that opportunity to be like, all right, did you kind of not saying making up as you went, but was it something like you saw it and you kind of like tied two things together that there's no one whispering over your ear that?
No, it's the same as you. You see opportunities and you see something here, and you just kind of bring the two together.
So it sounds like your law degree, and then you start under. I have questions later about money because I want to go a little.
I would like all of the money that you have.
I thought
you would just give that to me.
Yes,
now.
yeah, that would be a great relationship. I'm sure my 7 kids would love that. Yeah, who's Mr. Roland? Okay, Daddy, get me a new sucker. No, but it sounds like you learned law. You had the entrepreneurial like mindset, but then you started learning about how to use money. And
well,
leverage capital.
my undergrad was in accounting. So my father was a tax attorney, actually still is a tax attorney.
Yeah.
And I was exposed to a lot of financy kinds of things as a kid. But I was also, I think, one of the first 2 things that I would say were very, very important in that were finding a book called The Richest Man in Babylon by George Clason.
Yeah, okay.
Which talked about really effectively buckets and paying yourself first and things like that. That was really a helpful thing to find when I was 16, 17 years old. And the other was in the back of my dad's car, there were some cassette tapes, if you remember back in the day, from Nightingale Conant by Dennis Waitley called The Psychology of Winning.
See, that's so funny. I was saying earlier today, I got the entrepreneurial, like, oh my God, I was in the nursing school and I walked into my volleyball coach's office, and on his shelf was Lead the Field by Earl Nightingale, and right next to it, Psychology of Winning, audio tapes. Stuck them in my thing, and it was the first time I ever heard, well, I shouldn't say, like, I grew up in a great family, but it was the first time I ever heard, like, you can go do whatever you want to do, and you can create your own self-image, stuff like that. So that's pretty amazing. That's pretty funny. Now, I wrote down, I wanted to ask you about your dad, because you had... Everyone has said your dad's like amazing. Did he push you towards law, or how did how did you get it? How or why did you go into law?
I just enjoyed. He told me, if you understand how to read financial statements, then you speak the language of business, which is interesting because I just read something by Warren Buffett that said exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
It is the language of business. And so understanding financial statements and that sort of stuff, and you don't have to be an accountant, obviously, but that knowledge was amazing. And I saw that he was successful at business and the other people that he worked with were successful, and he was a tax attorney. And the 2 things that I think are incredibly helpful to me educationally are a founding in accounting and a founding in law. It's amazing when you're doing business. If you have those 2 tools, you can kind of accomplish anything.
Yeah, because if you look in our groups and people we associate with, what I was thinking about before our conversation was many of the questions guys have that prevents them to going to the next level has to do with licensing, acquiring abilities to, like, how do I put this licensing deal together?
Yep.
And really, you get marketing guys and creatives are that's so far from their spectrum.
Right.
So you can fill some of that gap, or that's where opportunity lies for you. So those are
correct. Yeah, it's kind of when you get to a certain level, it is all business, right?
Yeah,
It's business relationships, business transactions, deals, negotiations. Those are all things that understanding the basics, at least, of financial statements and the basics of how money works and how capital works and then how deals are structured is pretty invaluable.
So let's talk about that. So how do you define money?
How do I define money? I would define money as, I consider money cash. I don't consider money stocks or things like that. So in this kind of a strict, narrowly defined sense.
Yeah. So what is money to you then? What does it give you?
Money gives you the freedom to do the things that you want for yourself and other people.
Awesome.
That's really all it is.
So was there a time where money changed for you? Like, was there a time where you're like, holy crap, and it just started opening up?
Meaning the definition changed?
No, just your ability to acquire it and to see the power of it. Like the one deal you just shared a minute ago was pretty profound, but...
Yeah, I my relationship with money is I feel like I have always felt like I can always generate it.
Yeah.
And it's cool to have. I've had it. I've had less of it. I've had more of it. There hasn't really ever been I mean, there are different points in your life where what you're able to do for other people and what you're able to do to collect your own experiences changes, but I think you can kind of do it anywhere.
Yeah. Very
what do you
cool.
think about that?
Well, what's interesting was because, like, I mean, see, I grew up in a household where there was very little money all the time. So my vision was not expanded based on the idea that there's an abundance of money. That came through years of failure, years of grinding through the thing, Okay, very good. So you're around high-level thinkers a lot. You've been around. I mean, like one question I got to ask, because I think some of our entrepreneurial buddies who, at least if they're not aware of Guthy Renker, who've produced Tony Robbins infomercial, were you on that as well? Were you a part of that?
Only the negotiations.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what was one thing? What was something cool, unique about working with Guthy?
I think those guys are visionaries, and what they were able to do in that space is, and that's probably a good example of really understanding scale, because I'd say that was the first time that I was really exposed to how much opportunity exists if you're casting a wider net for a broader appeal as opposed to a very narrow one.
Yeah.
And I had always been, if you think about my upbringing and the education, was around services.
Yes.
And consulting and things like that, not really selling products.
Like how fast can you move the treadmill?
Yeah.
Even though you might be high priced, you're still on it.
Yeah. And that's something you learn as an attorney too, is even if you charge $1,000 an hour, you're still limited to your 2,000 hours a year roughly that you can bill times $1,000 an hour, which is $2 million, and that's nice, but that's a pretty low limit given the universe of opportunity that's out there.
So what's the biggest difference between the high-level thinkers that you see that you're like, that guy or gal gets it, versus why, the other spectrum? Because with digital marketer, you guys provide amazing resources. Traffic and Conversion Summit is now you're going outside of the U.S.
Yeah, we're doing Australia in March, and then hopefully the UK in fourth quarter, and then
fantastic.
We'll add. There's 9 or 10 of them that hopefully we'll end up at.
But that's an example of expanding the universe right there. So Traffic and Conversion Summit, which is a phenomenal summit. If you haven't ever gone to it, you got to go. Everyone goes to it. It's this year. It's in San Diego and then all over the world. What's the difference between the people you see who like, I get it, versus those who can be getting the same exact message, sitting in the same exact seats, excuse me, but just they're not getting results.
Results is all about implementation, right?
Yeah.
So the stuff that you hear at Traffic and Conversion, the stuff that you can read in a whole bunch of books, I believe that almost all of it works.
Yeah.
Right. If you watch an infomercial on TV about how to make money in real estate, if you buy real estate and you go through what most of those guys tell you how to do, it's probably going to work and you're going to make money. But most people don't do it. So that's it. I mean, it all comes down to there's 2 levels of accomplishment, I think. The first is you have to take action to do it and implement, and the second is that you have to scale, and those are the 2 big limiting points. So there's the haves and have-nots between the people who go and hear the information and say, yeah, that's cool, and I'm going to do it, and I'm going to buy a course, or I'm going to, think about it and get around to it, but don't ever do it. And then there's people like you who you tell something in passing, and then I talk to you 6 months later, and you have a whole business about it.
Yeah. Wow. Time collapsing.
But then, exactly. But then the next big difference is people who are mired in the doing of the implementation and not in how to scale all around them in so many ways. How to scale themselves and what they do as a technician and change from a technician to a business owner. And then to actually go out and identify leverage points in their business in multiple places that will allow the business to grow exponentially.
Well, let's go deeper on that, because it was on my list, right? So we'll come back to some of the other stuff, but let's just hit it. Well, by the way, what did you just said? Because Perry and Ryan both said. I said, what's Roland's? What is the thing that Roland does the best? And they both said if Ryan Dice said if you had to choose between staying at a 3-star hotel or snipping your Achilles tendon with rusty garden shears, which would you pick? And Perry Belcher said he's a hotel snob. So,
both on the hotel.
Yeah, really I know, right? Isn't that funny? And they weren't sitting in a bathtub together. That's right. Kind of a
no, but you don't know that.
Yeah, that's right. But they both had said your ability to scale is one through relationships. But I want to just put scale first, and we'll talk about relationships because
sure.
I have a lot of questions on relationships. One thing you mentioned was before we talk about scale, you said something I want to go back to, which is you said, I'm going to go do this, and then you said there's 2 sets. You're going to go do this, I'm going to implement, and I'm going to go scale. Mm-hmm. But what I want to know, because do you feel like when you're learning a new system, like so you and I have crossed paths, like not many ways, like, okay, you're learning SEO, okay, well, I'm going to go learn SEO. Now we're going to learn media buying. I'm going to learn media buying.
Right.
We're doing local search seminars together. Those are all totally different systems. Mm-hmm. I pride myself on the ability to learn extraordinarily fast by modeling. You tend to do the same thing. Mm-hmm. What's your internal system that you haven't really shared, or do you have one that you're not even aware of, or that
system
are you
for
accumulating information rapidly and then implementing very rapidly?
Yeah, I am, because I do that regularly. I am an avid consumer of massive amounts of information, and so I cram learning information, researching online, talking to everybody I can into a very, very short period of time, and spend maybe 14, 15 hours a day doing it for a couple of months. And then the next phase is synthesizing and seeing what makes sense and what doesn't, and organizing and sequencing and ordering. And then it's implementing after that.
So in the synthesizing, so for example, like when you're accumulating information, do you feel like a certain pressure, like internal, like that you put on yourself, like I got to get this?
I feel like I can't drink it in fast enough, and there's an urgency that is palpable physically for me.
Yes.
That I feel it right now in what I'm learning with respect to how sites like Upworthy and BuzzFeed and Movoto are able to grow in a year from nothing to millions of unique visitors. Yeah. And that's so cool, and I can't get the information fast enough
to put the matrix together.
Yeah,
smooth. Yeah, I like it. And then in the synthesizing phase, how much is there a phase where there's almost overwhelmed confusion where you're okay with that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. The first time that I experienced that was, do you have that too? Is that how you
work? I always, I want to let you finish, but yes, I think it's a key pattern that I've rarely seen anyone talk about.
Yeah, so the first time that I got it was when I was in college, and I was taking accounting, and accounting was completely new to me at the time. I had never had accounting courses or anything like that. So, and what I found was that if I tried to concentrate on understanding the material, I had to work a whole lot harder than if I just went through it the first time and didn't care about understanding it or not understanding it, just kind of absorbed it. And then when I went back a second time, it all kind of fell into place. And so that kind of prepared me for, like, when you go into SEO or tax or securities, they're all things that are changing all the time so much. All the rules are changing that you can never, if you learn everything, if you were able to learn everything there is to learn right now over the next 6 months, you would be out of date.
That's amazing.
At the end, right? So allowing yourself to be comfortable with the overwhelm is really, really a key, because then it doesn't matter. And it does fall into place, and you end up with, if I end up with 40% of it or 60% of it or 80% of it, I'm way ahead of where I was.
Way ahead. And I'm under the belief that most people never allow themselves to sit in that let alone do it multiple times. So just by like, so that's why I don't even think like, in Outliers, they talk about 10,000 hours.
Yep.
You and I don't have to be world-class pianists or whatever. We just got to be better than everybody else.
Yep.
And so if part of that phase is the synthesizing of getting through it, then I think that's a big pattern. Okay, cool. That's one of the things I wanted to see, because you accumulate. I noticed that with you that you do that, and I was curious on that system. That's awesome. Scale. Mm-hmm. When you look at a business and you're evaluating, do I want to be involved in this? And obviously, is scale one of your core initial questions? Like, can this scale?
Yes, but the very first one, and it was articulately summed up by Mark Anthony, I think.
Another smart guy.
Yeah.
And a very handsome fellow, too. We got to say that.
Yeah. Not only a wealthy, but extremely good-looking and discerning. Yeah, he has a thing he calls PFM, and it's really in that order for me as well.
Okay.
You have to like the people that you're dealing with. There have to be people that you have some sort of, I'm an energy woo-woo guy on that, right? It has to be somebody that you have some sort of connection with. And from a legal side, what you learn in law school is people don't sue people that they like. So when you see all kinds of business deals where people are trying to force the square peg into the round hole with somebody they didn't like the person that we were talking about earlier. Right, that ultimately probably will not be a good relationship. So you have to start with liking the people. And so jumping into business with somebody that you don't have any time to kind of get to know, I think is a big mistake. Then the next thing is the F in PFM is fun, is it has to be something that's fun, because life is too long to do things that are not fun.
All right, can I Vinny asked me to ask you to define fun.
Fun to me is being outside of my comfort zone. That's fun. If we're going to go, if you and I are talking about something right now and we're going to go do something that is not a challenge and doesn't push either of us to grow in some sort of way, then I don't actually think that's fun. And it's not that I wouldn't do it or that I wouldn't do it and outsource it or do it and get somebody to run it. You know. But for me personally, it's how do I grow as a human being in knowledge, understanding, that kind of stuff. That's important to me.
I was watching a video of like Will Smith, on Charlie Rose was interviewing him, and he said something like, you have to have this delusional quality that what has happened that there's something that's going to happen new than what's already happened the last 50 billion years, right?
Yeah.
So do you like playing in that world? Like what?
Do I like playing in a world of deluding myself that it's going to be new?
No, maybe. I don't know. Like maybe sound a little different. Where you like to see like what's not there or what's possible that's beyond where you've been. And
well, see, I start by believing that it's all possible.
Okay, that's a great global belief.
And then it's just a question of where I haven't been yet. So it's if you think about like when you move to a new neighborhood and you know that going from point A to point B, and you know the stuff that's in between then, but and it's like in game maps too. When you walk around, bits of the map open up and become light. That's how everything is, in my opinion. Is that like I know how to get from here to here now, and more of the map is lighting up as I go around.
That's right.
But there's all this other area that's still dark to me, and I want to go and light that up too because that's going to be interesting and expanding.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes total sense. That makes total sense. So you said something there that just kind of grabbed my attention as well. Where did you learn how to think like anything's possible? And you said something, you just gave a strategy there, which was everything's possible, just not yet.
Right.
I mean, you're not born with that, are you?
I can't tie it to anything. I really don't know. I mean, I have tried so hard to get my kids to read because I think that's so important, and I have to think that from the things that I was reading, I remember I had a fifth grade book report, and my fifth grade book report I did was on a book called I'm Okay, You're Okay, which was on transactional analysis, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I was reading that stuff back then because my mother was very, very into Carl Jung and psychology, and all littered around the house were all of these books.
Oh, yeah.
And so,
osmosis, man.
So I would assume that it came from that because I believe it's all socialization.
Yep.
But I couldn't hang it on a particular event or peg or anything like that.
So this might. So do you feel like? I mean, it sounds like you were in a pretty high energetic. Like you'd have a good grasp of, okay, this is low energy because you have a good pulse of what high energy feels like. Mm-hmm. See, what's interesting about that is that it seems like most people grow up in a very mixed energy or low energy. And like when we were shooting other episodes of the show earlier, I was talking about how our television and everything we listen to rewards low energy. Mm-hmm. So most people don't even know what you're kind of delusional to great energy, which makes your world more possible.
Yeah. Well, and what that is it's filtering, right? It's why I don't watch the news, because the news is primarily negative and designed to appeal to people's emotions of fear so that they will consume more news, right? And so most of what's out there, I think, is like that. And interestingly enough, and this is the thing about your show that I hope goes against the grain, is that from what I have seen in entertainment, positive is hard to sustain.
Hard to make. Yeah.
You know, as a show, as a consumption, because if there's no drama, and if there's no drama, then it becomes difficult for people to consume.
Yeah.
I don't require drama, right?
That's right.
I don't
to
like
operate.
It.
Yeah. Like, hey, let's take 5 minutes and just be drama so we get out of our system.
Yeah, right?
So then we can go be awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, awesome. So PFM, what's the M?
M is money.
Oh, okay, great. So it's got money. Great.
Yeah.
Now, when you look at it, the scale, one thing that Perry had said, or you had said, was you go back to relationships. But before we go deeper in relationships, you also said you look around the scale, you go around the whole thing. So what do you mean by that? Like when you look at a business, what are the different ways that it can scale? Or
sure.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'll get them all here.
It'll be perfect.
But basically, is there untapped market, right?
Yeah.
That's it. But let's just assume that I think it can scale, because I think it's, unless you want me to talk about can it scale, because as long as there's untapped market.
Yeah, and with media arbitrage nowadays, there's so many opportunities to scale almost anything.
Okay,
right?
So let's just assume
it can scale.
Let's say it can scale. So then the question becomes, how can it scale?
Yeah.
Right? And it can scale by using, ideally, you look around and you say, where are the leverage points? Are there leverage points in money? Can I get extra money? Can I get money from an investment bank like Goldman Sachs, or can I get money from my buddy Ed, who might be interested in it, or my Uncle Joe? Then what things do I need in the business? Do I need a sales force? If I need a sales force, then where is a sales force? Who else already has a sales force that I can tap into that will be complementary and non-competitive to mine, or that I can acquire, or lease, or something? What other channels of distribution already exist?
What's interesting is you didn't say anything about how do I build my sales team.
Don't want to do that. Yeah, it takes too long.
Yeah, see, that's time collapsing. Awesome. Okay, keep going.
So then it would be channels of distribution. Who else? What are all of the other available channels of distribution that this business isn't currently tapping? And what relationships do I have, or can I create, that I can tap into those existing channels of distribution? Manufacturing. Who's got manufacturing capacity that's not being used? Advertising and marketing. Who's got ad inventory that's not being used that I might be able to tap into, that's already extant, right? That's already there, sitting there.
And you can get it at like 1/10 the price, or free.
Yeah. But I don't even care. What if it's 3 times the price, but they've already got it and I don't have to pay for it right now?
Got it.
Right?
Yep.
And I'm not saying that I'd be running up debt. I'm just saying, like, if let's say I have an infomercial worthy product that's got a 10x markup on its sales, and if I was going to go and buy ads, it would cost me 1x the cost of whatever it is I'm selling, right? Or 2, let's say 2. Well, I still have 8x left to work with in the overall every expense that goes into whether I'm going to make a profit or not. So if I have to buy ad space, then I'm constrained by the amount of capital that I have to go buy the ad space with. But if I can get the ad space from somebody that's already got it, then as long as it's less than 8x and leaves me everything else that I need, then why do I care if it's 7x? I don't.
You don't.
Right? Especially if I can get infinite amounts of it, because I don't have to deal with any constraint that's pre-existing in the company by having to pay cash for it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So you really, but this goes back to your relationship with money. You think differently about it.
I guess, yeah.
Most people would be like, well, no. How do I pay 3x so I keep 5x?
Yeah, don't understand that at all. Never. It drives me nuts.
Wow,
when
that's
people
pretty
talk
awesome.
about that.
That's awesome.
And that goes to everything. It's like where are all the leverage points? Inventory, manufacturing, financing, distribution, marketing dollars, ad dollars, personnel, right?
Yeah.
Sales forces, sales reps, everything.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Businesses to where. So where did relationships like we already talked about money, we're talking about scale. Now the gap on a couple of these things are relationships, right? And so you've become you're known as kind of a master at building good relationships with those both things. I mean, the better your relationships, the more money comes out of it, and we scale companies, right? So was there ever a point where you're like, wow, okay, the more people I meet, the more value is being given to everybody? Like, what's your thought, or let's start clean slate of, when it comes to business relationships, how do you see it working and where do you start?
I think you start with giving value with no expectation of anything in return because you want to help other people. And that's...
Now, a lot of people would say
it.
that's kind of BS. You know, like
It's not, though.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go into
the
that.
most manipulative thing you can do is help other people get what they want, which is awesome.
Awesome.
Right?
Yeah. Was there a point where you did that and it clicked, or again, is this just your upbringing and you've always had that?
It wasn't my upbringing. I don't know where it happened, but as a negotiator, because I was always told I was a good negotiator, I learned when I was at a fishing store with my uncle when I was a kid, and we went into this bait and tackle shop, and he's like, I'd go down to Arkansas. He owned a paving business, and I'd go down and pave roads every summer, and we'd go fishing. And he went in one of the summers I was down there. He said, watch, I'm going to buy this stuff. I'm not going to pay what they're asking for. And I was like, what do you mean you're not going to pay what they're asking for? I'm not going to pay what they're asking for. I'm going to haggle. I'm like, you can do that. It says right here how much it costs. No, which might sound silly because we all know that you don't have to pay what the prices are.
Yeah.
This is a retail store, and he went up and he's like, can't talk to the clerk guy. You got to talk to a manager. And he did it. And then the whole rest of that trip, I was doing that, and that was a big aha for me as a kid. And I remember I went into Sears, and they were selling a Polaroid handle camera that you cranked out a picture when you took the thing, or Kodak handle maybe it was. And I went and so everything. So I was at Sears as this kid, and I'm talking to the guy, and I ask for a manager because the sales guy says, nah, I can't do it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't want to pay this for it. I'll give you this for it. And he's like, well, we don't do that here. But I'll tell you what, we had a sale on it last month, and I'll give you the sale price.
Yeah. Oh, cool.
I was like, oh my God,
this works.
Yeah, that's so amazing. So, so that. I don't know what of your question triggered that.
Well, going back to, it was, when did where it started clicking that the more you give value, I mean, you went into a little negotiation, which I do have a couple questions on negotiation.
Yeah, okay, so that's where I'm sorry.
Where you started giving value, you started noticing that.
So my negotiation style was, what can I get for me?
Yeah.
And I never thought about the other guy, right?
Yeah.
And I'd say that was the case for a very long time, and then I had a couple of deals where I got fantastic terms in the negotiation.
Yeah.
But the performance by the other side was less than what it should have been, and it was less than what they were used to performing or providing.
Did they feel like they did not win, or was
I think so, even subconsciously. And so what I came back to, and this is something that I actually am putting in a book that I'm working on, is there's a zone of fairness, right? There's a zone in which everybody makes money, everybody is happy. They might be more happy at this end than this end, but they're not feeling bad about it. And you actually are the person who's charged with being responsible to not let the other side make a bad deal.
Yeah.
Not only, first it's not make a bad deal.
Yeah.
Because they might make a bad deal and feel great about it because they wanted your business, right? They will feel bad about it later, or it won't work out.
Yeah.
So you're the person, when you're making a deal, you can't let somebody make a bad deal.
Yeah.
And then the next thing is, because I actually had this over the holidays when I was buying a lens from somebody on eBay for a camera for my son, who said, he's like, well, I really wanted to get more about it, but I'm going to do it. And I actually emailed him back and I said, you know what? I don't want to buy it from you if you feel bad about it.
Yeah, right.
And I appreciate that you're going to sell it, but I tell you what, just let the auction run and see what you get for it, and then let's talk after that, because I don't want to make a deal that you don't feel good about. And so this is a very long answer to your question, but I think the trigger was probably seeing that impact on other people of them making a bad deal or of you over negotiating.
Yeah.
And then kind of swinging to the other side and saying, before I do any of that with anybody that I want to do business with, I should just go in, and it's that whole thing I was talking about earlier, is get to know them. I can get to know them by adding value, and I can add value that will ultimately, I think, in the Machiavellian sense, ultimately benefit me the most by adding that value, because they're going to say, hey, this is a guy who knows what he's talking about. This is a guy who's concerned about me sincerely, and therefore I would like to do business with him. And then when the opportunity arises for them to do business, and including Ryan and Perry, they'll both tell you that. Ryan will tell you, I just was there and helped out when I could and was happy to give advice. And same thing. Actually, you and I got together the very first time.
Well, we're definitely going to build something together. We're still figuring out. You're my first show. You're my first episode.
Oh, really? Oh, cool.
Well, yeah, my first official one. Yeah,
awesome.
No question.
Awesome.
A negotiation. You know that old phrase of like the first one to show their cards loses, or just. But how do you also live in a world like that's where I like being transparent. I like just being like, this is what I'm thinking. So what's that balance of being transparent, but also holding enough of your cards back so you're not?
I don't think there is a formula for it that you can just say these are the rules, but. It's if your wife asks you if she looks fat in the dress, that's too much information, right, for you to give. So I think you hold back the things in a negotiation or in a transaction that won't help move it forward, but everything else you should be transparent about. And having just done 2 really significant negotiations over the last couple of weeks, it was funny because both sides. We're very, very open. I think the hide the ball negotiation is a wrong way to do it. Now, the old saying, he or she who first mentions a number loses. It depends on your perspective, right?
Yeah.
If you're trying to get the absolute best deal ground out, that's probably true. But if you're coming to it wanting to understand what they need to make it a win for them, then you have to have a number.
And you also have that rule of fairness, too, that you're trying to live by. So those are stacking on top of each other.
And if I'm actually dealing with somebody that I care about, I will probably just come right out and say, listen, I'm willing to do this for this, but this is really where I want to be.
Yeah.
And if it's a kind of person that I want to deal with, then...
I like that a lot. That's a good language pattern.
So that's kind of where it works.
So how do you, with relationships, like, a ton of celebrities, I just saw who texted you, by the way, so I was like, oh, people would be like, holy crap, I would love to meet, you have access, you play in what I call, both worlds. You have friends, you're so kind to people who are, total newbies that have no clue what's going on. Yet you also have access to some of the most intelligent and smartest people. What advice would you give to and I asked you this. This is a personal question too, because it's I'm trying to go there. To get there, these are the people that I know could help me, but they don't know me, and I'm not there yet. So what would they want? How could, how do you help people make that leap, or what's a strategy on just even moving forward so I can even create value for them so that I could start getting to where I want to go?
I think that's so specific to the people.
It's a situation.
Yeah, because so the overarching thing is, you already said, how can I add value? And when you wrote to me what you were doing is, how can I serve them and all that kind of stuff. So then it's really, it's how do you get connected to them in a way where you get to have a one-on-one conversation.
So you can understand where they're at.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
And so I believe that if you have the conversation, so here's a strategy for us, right? With traffic and conversion. We identify somebody that we would like to do business with. William Shatner's a great example of that. We just finished a Kickstarter with him, right?
Oh, cool.
So we identify somebody we want to do business with. Then the first thing I ask is, have they created a channel? And this is what I did with Ryan and Perry. This is what I did with Gary Halbert back when I was doing business with him. Have they created a channel to access them directly? Well, Ryan and Perry they have a mastermind called the War Room. You want to get to know them, join the War Room. But you have to pay to play, right? And so if you don't have the money to pay to play, then to me, you have to figure out how to do it. Because if you come at it from a different angle, you are going to hit walls. So for Shatner, but you have to pay to play, right? And so if you don't have the money to pay to play, then to me, you have to figure out how to do it. Because if you come at it from a different angle, you are going to hit walls. So for Shatner, we said, how can we access him? Well, we can hire him. He does speak. Almost everybody does, and I'm sure all the people that you want to get to know do too. So it would be, how about if we figure out how to hire him? Great, okay, he's $150,000 or whatever he costs, right? We don't want to pay $150,000 just to have a conversation with him. Well, we happen to have this venue that we can justify that, right?
You can use the venue, and you can use the value you're giving your attendees as a way of washing out the fee. To have
and then the deal that you make with him and everybody else that comes to TNC, this is our secret, is it's a 45-minute talk or interview, 30 minutes photo op, so that all the people get the benefit. Now that paid for the fee to play, right? And then the last 2.5 hours is we're going to have dinner. We're going to break bread together. Right? Just me, my partners, and whoever we want to talk to.
And so in those questions, is there a disillusionment that from people who are not aware of celebrities, that they have things that they want in their life as well that they're not getting, that guys like us can find solutions or create value for them as well?
No, I don't think that's an illusion. I think that's absolutely true. I think
that's what I mean. Like, are people disillusioned, thinking, oh, they're up there, so they don't have problems?
Yeah. Warren Buffett has things he wants. Everybody has things they want. Usually, if they're billionaire-ish type people, then it's either a relationship or it's a charity. Right? They're in the philanthropic stage. Two
more questions for you, man. Where do you Well, it's kind of like one question in the same thing. What's next? And where do you see opportunities?
What is next for me?
Yeah, we can start with you, and then where do you see some big opportunities that others should be paying attention to? Let me frame it that way.
Opportunity is everywhere. I mean, it's the thing that keeps a lot of people, I think, from moving forward is they want someone to tell them where the opportunity is. But the opportunity is all around you. The opportunity is in anything that you are passionate about, where you can deal with people that you like and have fun and make some money. And that's almost everywhere. I mean, real estate investing in Detroit. Oh, it's awful, it's terrible, but I guarantee you can go there and make money.
Didn't the one guy buy the whole town?
Right. And a lot of it's contrarian, right? So if real estate is going up and up and up and up and up, then that's probably the last place I want to go. So I guess opportunity to me
someone actually, I'll tell you funny. So someone actually, one of you know who it is, sent me a note saying, hey, I have this new traffic source that's awesome for supplements, health supplements. And I said, well, what is it? And they're like, newspaper ads. And I'm like, that's funny, we're already running them.
That's funny.
But isn't it funny? Like newspaper ads. That's the new traffic source.
Well, that's like native advertising is a big buzzword, and all native advertising is advertorial, which has been around for forever, right? I think that's what I would say is opportunity is everywhere all the time. It is not as great in areas that all the masses are swarming to. So if it's the hot thing, then
it's already the wrong place to be.
I think, I think opportunity runs contrarian.
What's your book about?
Originally it was called Life Without Limits. It probably still will be, but it's basically, I was inspired to write it about 20 years ago, the first version of it, because I read Ben Franklin's autobiography, and he talked about that he was writing it for his son. He was writing it for his legacy, for his children, right? And I thought, I didn't have kids at the time, but I wanted to share what I felt I knew of the world with my kids.
Yes.
And so that's so it's about a perspective on the world and understanding, finding your own way and making your own conscious decisions to choose the goals, values, purpose, and all of that you want to be, and then identifying the things that conflict with that you may have inherited from other people, from your parents, or from so it was kind of along those lines.
It's awesome. If anyone wants to get a hold of you or come to an event, where would they?
If they want to come to an event, then that would be digitalmarketer.com or traffickingconversionsummit.com. Get a hold of me. I'm Roland Frasier on Facebook. I'm Roland Frasier on LinkedIn. I'm Roland Frasier on Twitter.
Yeah.
Kind of boringly Roland Frasier across the social web.
But you're always approachable and very easy to be around with, and as you said, very helpful. So, well, thank you for making it
having
here,
me.
buddy.
Appreciate it.
You're the best.
Thanks. Likewise.
And let us know what you thought. Roland Frasier, share this, tweet it, put it on Facebook. Give us feedback. I mean, this guy's the best. If you have more questions, I'm sure in a year or so we'll be back with our episode number 2 with Roland Frasier. Again, this is Ed O'Keefe. Thanks for being a part of the Ed O'Keefe Show, behind the scenes with greatness.
This episode is sponsored by Marine D3. If you want 24-hour antioxidant protection while giving your brain, eyes, heart, and overall energy a jolt of long-lasting nourishment, then Marine D3 is for you. This is my number 1 top-selling health product that I've sold over 500,000 bottles, and right now, 80% of our sales come from repeat customers. Marine D3 can flood your cells with an abundance of new antioxidants and nutrients that fights and repairs damage done to the cells during exercise, everyday living, and the natural breakdown that occurs as we age. After 15 years of research and over $39 million spent on clinical studies, a renowned biochemist has found one of the world's greatest antioxidants. It's called CNLP, hiding deep below the ocean surface. I took CNLP, combined it with a little-known omega-3 called calamine, as well as vitamin D3, so that you can get maximum benefit all in one supplement. I'd like to give you the first bottle absolutely free. I just ask that you pay shipping and handling. At edokeefeshow.com/free bottle, I'll have a mini presentation that will share more about the supplement and why people are raving about it. Most importantly, it'll show you exactly how you can get it shipped out to you today, just for shipping and handling. This episode is brought to you by Dormant Forces Insider. If you would like monthly big business breakthroughs, insider marketing strategies that actually work, and mindset secrets of multimillionaires sent directly to your door so you can have them in your hands and you can apply them, then this is for you. Now, you can test drive my Dormant Forces Insider Silver membership for just 1 month free. If you love it, we know you'll stay with it and let it keep you in the loop of what's working inside my businesses and the other dozens and dozens of businesses that I mentor. Why would you go at it all on your own when you can use other people's experience than just replicate what works? Anyhow, right now you can test drive the membership for just $1 plus a few bucks shipping and handling by going to edokeefeshow.com/dormant forces. That's edokeefeshow.com/dormant forces.
And thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the podcast. You can find the show notes for this episode as well as all the other podcast episodes by heading on over to edokeefeshow.com. If you would, please go subscribe to the podcast on iTunes and leave a rating and review. Rating and reviews truly are the best way for you to show your appreciation for the show because they help more people find out about the podcast and decide if this is the one for them. So until next week, it's time for you to go out there, take action, and inspire